January 14th, 2021. Man, I just did this entire video, like 26 minutes, and the audio glitched. None of it worked. It was 80% uploaded to Instagram before I played it back and realized the audio was garbage. I have to do it all again. Here we go. So I want to do a video about another environmental toxin in our diet that is brought to you courtesy of Big Agriculture and the FDA. Now, credit to one of my subscribers for sending me the question. I don't actually have much exposure to irradiated foods, and they were asking, is this a big danger? I just moved from the east to Texas, and a lot of the produce has stickers on it that it's irradiated. A lot of the fruit and produce is irradiated. And so I said, let me figure it out. And here we are. Let's do a quick introduction here on what the FDA has to say about food irradiation. All right. FDA.gov, where they are completely dedicated to protecting industry and not you. Food irradiation. What you need to know, aka what we want you to know. Irradiation does not make foods radioactive, compromise the nutritional quality, or noticeably change the taste, texture, or appearance of food. Holy cow, the opening sentence is nothing but lies. In fact, any changes made by irradiation are so minimal that it is not easy to tell if the food has been irradiated. They're so full of crap, guys. Food irradiation, the application of ionizing radiation to food, is a technology that improves the safety and extends the shelf life of foods by reducing or eliminating the microorganisms and insects. Like pasteurizing milk and canned fruits and vegetables, irradiation can make foods safer for the consumer. The Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, is responsible for regulating the sources of radiation that are used to irradiate food. The FDA approves the source of radiation for use on foods only after it has determined that irradiating the food is safe. Yeah, as safe as all the pesticides and crap that they're shoving down our throats, killing us. It's not safe. We're going to see how and why. But they reference pasteurizing milk and pasteurizing juices and using canned fruits and vegetables. All of those take away from the nutritional profile of the food. They break apart the structure of the protein that our body is not familiar with. So we're causing so much damage to the food and creating so many nutrient deficiencies and toxic exposures all at once. Thank you, FDA, for your bull crap. None of this is safe. Why do we irradiate food? Well, one is to prevent foodborne illnesses, eliminating organisms that cause foodborne illnesses like Salmonella, E. coli, and some of their byproducts like botulism, things like that. Preservation, to destroy or inactivate organisms that cause spoilage and decomposition and extend the shelf life of food. It says right there, to destroy organisms. If it's destroying organisms, it's destroying the food, okay? To control insects. To destroy insects in or on the tropical fruits imported into the United States. Irradiation also decreases the need for other pest control or pest control practices that may harm the fruit. To delay of sprouting and ripening. To inhibit sprouting, like in potatoes, and to delay ripening of fruit to increase longevity. If it's delaying natural processes of the biological product, in this case fruit or vegetables, it's causing damage, guys. And sterilization. Radiation can be used to sterilize foods, which can then be stored for years without refrigeration. This is horrible. Sterilized foods are used in hospitals for patients with severely impaired immune systems, such as patients with AIDS or undergoing chemotherapy. Foods that are sterilized by irradiation are exposed to substantially higher levels of treatment than those approved for general use. So we're exponentially exposing radiation to these foods for those that are immune compromised. We are so stupid. Okay, how is food irradiated? Gamma rays are emitted from radioactive forms of the element cobalt and the element cesium. Gamma radiation is used routinely to sterilize medical, dental, and household products, and it's also used for the radiation treatment of cancer. Oh, then it must be safe. X-rays are produced by reflecting high-energy stream of electrons off a target substance, usually one of the heavy metals, into food. X-rays are also widely used in medicine and in industry to produce images of internal structures. Electron beams, or E-beam, is similar to X-rays, and it is a stream of high-energy electrons propelled from an electron accelerator into food. None of this natural. Is it safe to eat? Boy, I hope they're backing this up, right? The FDA has evaluated the safety of irradiated food for more than 30 years and has found the process to be safe. The World Health Organization, the CDC, and the USDA have all also endorsed the safety of irradiated food. And every one of these regulatory agencies have contributed to the destruction of humanity at mass scale. You really trust these guys? The FDA has approved a variety of foods for irradiation: beef, pork, crustaceans, lobster, shrimp, crab, fresh fruits, vegetables, lettuce, spinach, poultry, seeds, shell eggs, shellfish, oysters, clams, mussels, scallops, spices, and seasonings. How will you know if my food has been irradiated? This is key. This is the one thing they do right. Labeling. The FDA requires that irradiated foods bear the international symbol of irradiation. Look for the Rudara symbol along with the statement, treated with radiation or treated by irradiation on the food label. Bulk foods such as fruits and vegetables are required to be individually labeled or to have a label next to the scale container. So look at that. Pay attention to the scale containers. The FDA does not require that individual ingredients in multi-ingredient foods like spices be labeled, so they can get away with it there. It is important to remember that irradiation is not a replacement for proper food handling practices by producers, processors, and consumers. Blah. Okay, so they're just going to say, well, we've looked at this for 30 years, it's safe. Weird. They don't reference one study, one paper, one thing. They're just saying, we're the FDA, you get to take our word for it. No. Everything that I've ever researched that you guys say is safe is extremely dangerous, causes chronic illness and death. So I'm going to look for the data. Guess what? It was actually pretty hard to find when it comes to irradiation. There's not a large body of evidence that actually shows safety. So here's one paper that I found. I mean, you can find papers, but none of them says it's safe. Health concerns regarding consumption of irradiated food. This is from 2004 in the International Journal of Hygiene and Environmental Health. All we have is the abstract. Couldn't find the full text. That's okay. This talks about food irradiation here in the abstract is being promoted as a simple process that can be used to effectively and significantly reduce foodborne illnesses around the world. However, a thorough review of the literature reveals a paucity of adequate research conducted to specifically address health concerns that may directly result from the consumption of irradiated food. Consequently, there is a considerable debate on the issue of health concerns from irradiated food among international agencies and between different nations. This report presents a critical review of scientific data and recommendations from different agencies and consumer groups. The objective of this review is to provide the scientific community and the general public with a balanced discussion on irradiated food from the viewpoint of an environmental or public health professional. Again, unfortunately, I don't have access to the full text. But what did they figure out? As a result of this review, the authors conclude, current evidence does not exist to substantiate the support or unconditional endorsement of irradiation of food consumption. That is key to understand. Kind of like on the CDC website where it says vaccines do not cause autism, and then you go source what they're referencing there and it says, we don't know. There's not enough evidence to support causation or prove that it doesn't. We don't know. Similar thing here with irradiated foods. We don't know if it's safe. So let's look at what the data does show along the past 30 years that we've been watching this. Thank goodness for the centerforfoodsafety.org. So I went digging and I found some great information here on centerforfoodsafety.org. They actually have a whole page dedicated to food irradiation, where you can go read through some of the articles. You can download different reports, download different fact sheets, and that's what I did. And we're going to read through the irradiation fact sheet because it really sums it up nicely. Okay. Food safety fact sheets. Your right to know. FDA poised to weaken labeling on the food irradiation. So this was from May 2007, and at the time they were trying to get away from labeling foods as irradiated because consumers were not wanting irradiated foods. And so they're like, well, God, how do we get around this labeling? And they wanted to be able to just relabel it as pasteurized instead of irradiated so that people would buy it. So dumb. Okay. This is a funny question to start with. What if the Food and Drug Administration proposed a rule that would intentionally hide information that you rely on to make decisions about what you feed yourself and your family? Are you kidding me? That's their job. They are built to intentionally hide important information that we should know in defense and protection of corporate interest. Or if FDA proposed changing food labeling information to something that the agency knows would be misleading consumers. Again, that's what they do. Well, FDA has announced just such a rule to weaken labeling of irradiated foods. Currently, irradiated food must be labeled as treated with radiation, or treated with irradiation, or treated by radiation, and must display the irradiated symbol. But now, in yet another attempt to appease industry at the expense of the public, the FDA has proposed a new rule that would allow irradiated food to be marketed in some cases without any labeling at all. And in other cases, the rule would allow the terms electronically pasteurized or cold pasteurized to replace the use of irradiated on labels. These terms are not used by scientists, but rather are designed to fool consumers about what's been done to their food. Consumers have a right to truthful labeling in order to make informed choices for themselves and their families. What is food irradiation? Food irradiation uses high-energy gamma rays, electron beams, and X-ray, all of which are millions of times more powerful than standard medical X-rays, to break apart the bacteria and insects that can hide inside the meat, the grains, and other foods. Radiation can do strange things to food by creating substances called unique radiolytic products. These radiation byproducts include a variety of mutagens, which are substances that can cause gene mutations, polyploidy, or abnormal condition in which cells contain more than 2 sets of chromosomes, chromosomes aberrations, often associated with cancerous cells, and dominant lethal mutations, a change in a cell that prevents it from reproducing in human cells. Making matters worse, many mutagens are also carcinogens. Research also shows that irradiation forms volatile toxic chemicals such as benzene and toluene, chemicals known or suspected to cause cancer and birth defects. Irradiation also causes stunted growth in lab animals fed irradiated foods. An important 2001 study linked colon tumor promotion in lab rats to 2-ACBs, a new chemical compound only found in irradiated foods. The FDA has never tested the safety of these byproducts. The FDA has never safety tested these byproducts. It's what they do with vaccines also. They don't safety test the excipient ingredients of the vaccines. Irradiation has also been shown to cause the low-level production of furans, similar to cancer-causing dioxins in fruit juice. So what are our food safety concerns? Well, if that's not enough, in addition to the proposed weakening of the labeling requirements for irradiated foods, FDA's rule would also severely limit them by requiring companies to label irradiated food only when the radiation treatment causes a material change to the product. Examples would include changes to the taste, the texture, the smell, the shelf life of a food, which that's what it's designed to do. Published research on irradiated food reveals that irradiation does change and can actually ruin the flavor, odor, appearance, and texture of food. Such research repeatedly finds that irradiated foods smell rotten, metallic, bloody, burnt, grassy, and generally off. The taste has been described as like sulfur, singed hair, burnt feathers, burnt oil, and rancid fat. Beyond the obvious yuck factor, serious questions remain as to whether irradiated foods are even safe to eat. Now, the original statement, the opening sentence of the FDA says it doesn't change the food how it looks, it doesn't change the nutrition, it doesn't change anything, it's just going to help clean it up. Well, irradiated foods can lose anywhere from 2 to 95% of their vitamins. For example, irradiation can destroy up to 80% of vitamin A in eggs, up to 95% of vitamin A and lutein in green beans, up to 50% of vitamin A and lutein in broccoli, and 40% of the beta-carotene in orange juice. Irradiation also doubles the amount of trans fats in beef. Despite 50 years of research, food scientists still do not fully understand how these changes take place. Much of the ongoing research, in fact, is focused on devising new ways to hide these changes rather than addressing the cause of the changes themselves. Isn't that how we've done everything? That's how science has approached everything. Let's not change the root cause or the problem. Let's just put a Band-Aid solution on the symptoms. Irradiation is not the solution to foodborne illness. Using recent food contamination scandals as a springboard, irradiation has been touted as the solution to the foodborne illness in everything from spinach to deli meats. But a good hard look at the systemic food and agricultural problems that cause these tragic outbreaks in the first place has yet to be undertaken by government agencies. So this is used to just mask the unsanitary condition of factory farms. Irradiation is an after-the-fact solution that does nothing to address the unsanitary conditions of factory farms and actually creates a disincentive for producers and handlers to take preventative steps in production and handling. Again, it's just a Band-Aid fix. That's not even a fix. It's causing more problems on top of the problems that are there. The longer the shelf life created by irradiation, affording longer shipping distances, also provides greater opportunity for post-treatment and post-treatment contamination via shipping, handling, etc. Additionally, irradiation does not work to stop toxins produced by some bacteria, like botulism, viruses like foot and mouth disease, or hepatitis. They're all resistant to the irradiation doses used in food, and the prions thought to be the cause of BSE or mad cow disease are resistant as well. Contributes to consolidation of the agriculture industry and the globalization of food. And this is a big deal. This is another part of this whole pandemic. American food processing companies see the use of irradiation as a potential means of boosting profits. In fact, the motivation for expanding irradiation to additional categories of food may be less about getting rid of disease-causing organisms and more about increasing market share in the international trade. Irradiation can drastically increase the shelf life of food. This gives corporations more flexibility in marketing and transportation, making it easier for large companies to move some operations to... One moment. All right, guys, Holden came in, so he's sitting by me. If you hear him in the background, it is what it is. So this gives corporations more flexibility in marketing and transportation, making it easier for large companies to move some operations to countries with lower labor costs and lower sanitary and safety standards. As many other outsourced industries, American workers, farmers, and ranchers could lose their jobs. In other words, food irradiation supports the globalization at its worst. Globalization at its worst, where concerns over long-term health risks carry less weight than the lure of expanded markets. Additionally, since irradiation has become a tool for the globalization of the U.S. food production, food irradiation procedures are modeled for large, centralized operations. This furthers the consolidation of big ag. Companies and contributes to the destruction of the small U.S. family farms, further degrading the security and diversity of our food supply. So as we've seen, there's been an attack on small business, small farms, private practice in healthcare, technology solutions, you name it, everything's going massive corporate globalization. Your right to know. The FDA, consumers, and the labeling lie. Labeling irradiated foods as pasteurized is simply untruthful and misleading. Pasteurization involves heating liquids for the purpose of destroying harmful bacteria and other pathogens and has been used safely for decades. Now, I just have to touch on that because pasteurization and canning foods is not that good for us anyway. Pasteurization is actually destroying the structure of the food protein. It's eliminating important enzymes that are naturally there to help us with digestion. It's eliminating the nutritional profile and destroying the nutritional profile of the food, often resulting in synthetic vitamins being added back in after the pasteurization process. So that's not great either. We need to clean up the farming and the agriculture so that we can have clean, raw foods. And anyway, any 12-year-old could tell you that irradiation using high-energy gamma rays, electron beams, or X-ray on food is a completely different process than pasteurization. In fact, FDA's own research found that the proposed change would confuse consumers, stating research indicates that many consumers regard substitute terms for irradiation to be misleading. Consumer data has repeatedly shown that consumers recognize and prefer the current labeling requirements of irradiated food. In 2001, FDA conducted focus groups of consumers on this issue. Consumers participating unanimously rejected replacing the term irradiation with pasteurization and reacted with phrases such as sneaky, deceptive, misleading, and trying to fool us, which are all perfect descriptions of all our regulatory agencies. Allowing the marketing of irradiated foods without any labeling is equally misleading. So you guys can jump into centerforfoodsafety.org, continue looking at the food irradiation. Now, this was something that was never on my radar because here in Colorado and in Utah where I grew up, I never saw irradiated labeling, at least not since I've been looking at labels. But, some people in other areas of the country are seeing this more and more, and who knows, maybe it's going to be increasing dramatically as we continue to move on. So they have some other great articles about food irradiation, the foodborne illnesses that it's used for, and again, this is just a Band-Aid solution that's actually causing more problems. So they reference spinach and lettuce and E. coli and cabbage and different things where we're having these massive E. coli outbreaks. But what's the real problem? It's the biosludge, guys. It's the biosludge that's being used in the farming practices where these diseases and these harmful pathogens are in abundance. So I have videos about biosludge that I've done. You can go watch a biosludge documentary that Mike Adams did on naturalnews.com or Brighteon, where, all this human waste that's not just our own disgusting waste, but all the medications that we take, the drugs that we take, the chemicals that we use in our homes, everything that gets flushed down the toilet, all these chemicals are used to create this biosludge that's marketed to farmers as organic fertilizer. The number one chemical that gives us away is Benadryl. It's at very high levels, but every drug that we manufacture and produce is in this biosludge that's used as a fertilizer. And, E. coli is a bacteria that exists in us, and then we use our crap that's highly toxic because of our horrible lifestyles in our farming. So you should go research biosludge as well, because that could actually be a really important part of regenerative farming and regenerative agriculture, using our own biosludge. But that's only a good idea if we're healthy, and we're not. We're a very sick species. So anyway, continue on, do your research. Irradiation, just another reason to go organic, okay? Go organic. Go local. Get to know your farmers. Get to know your ranchers. Or make sure you're going to stores that support organic local farms. You can figure that out. I've done a lot of videos about it in the past, but you're smart. You know what to do. Make wise choices. This is your life, okay? Take your health back into your own hands. Stop outsourcing your life and your health and take some responsibility for it. Choose organic, choose clean, choose raw, do it right, understand how to manage your eating, your lifestyle, your exercise, your activity levels, and you can be happy and healthy. All right? Awesome. Love you guys. Have a great day.